Absolutely. And that actually brings us to our the next topic, because you're talking about bone. Here, this is very interesting to me. And I didn't realize until I really started teaching these courses, is that osteopenia and osteoporosis they're epidemic with women our age. I have so many peers right now who are getting diagnosed with osteoporosis and osteopenia. In fact, a lot of women in this group have shared that openly inside the group, that they are recently diagnosed with that.
Right.
And it's often very sad that doctors do not recommend, doing weight-bearing exercises or strength training. So can you just touch upon that for a minute about because people automatically think, oh, weight training, muscle, but what they don't understand is the importance to our bones, especially as we age. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So osteopenia and osteoporosis are both terms that describe bone loss, right? So if you think about our bone health, like on a bell curve, normal bone health would be at the top of the bell curve. Osteoporosis would be down at the bottom of the bell curve, and osteopenia would be somewhere in between. And I was quite surprised too, because I saw your post earlier today. It happened up on my feed of the millions of people who are diagnosed with osteoporosis and osteopenia. It's super, super scary, and we really need to be concerned about it. And so when we are strength training, the same thing that happens to our muscles and those little micro tears also happens to the outside of our bones. So the muscles and the tendons are pulling on the bone, which sends a signal to our bodies. The little hormones and the little cells come and they rebuild that area of the bone where they're getting pulled on to make it stronger. I mean, it's really as simple as that.
Right.
I can go into, well, you don't want me to go into any of the medical terminology, but, for all intents and purposes, that is exactly what is happening. And that's why it's super important for our bone health to do that, to strength train.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, it's sad because a lot of these women who are, talking about recently being diagnosed, their doctors aren't talking to them about the importance of weight training or nutrition for that matter. And I touch upon, there's a module inside the course where it's dedicated just to bone health and nutrition and that kind of thing. So, so thank you so much, because it's really important. And somebody just hopped on and I'm not sure who it is. I'll have to check. It says, yes, I've been diagnosed. I've been told I have osteopenia. So I'll have to see who that is.
Okay.
Sometimes it doesn't appear, but so somebody who is here, let me click here and see who it is.
I'm not sure who it is. I have to check. It says, yes, I've been.
I do that every time. Everybody who does my lives knows I do that by a mistake. So Christy, thanks for hopping on. So Christy's on and she says, yes, that she has been told she has osteopenia. So and again, I'm finding women of this age group, 45 and older, it's just more and more women are being diagnosed with that. So it's good to know that we can train with weights. We can weight train. Let me ask you a question. Can you, in your opinion, can you reverse osteopenia and osteoporosis?
From the things that I have read, absolutely. I don't have any clients that I know of who have been diagnosed, but
that's because they're working out with you. That's because they're strength training.
Okay.
And you tell them about their nutrition.
I hope that is true. But and I have an 86-year-old who's one of my faithful clients. I've trained 3 generations in her family, and I constantly talk about this, right? And how important it is to stay strong and stay mobile, and and that helps with your balance too as you get older, right? If you don't have the muscle, the structure to hold you upright, then something unfortunately a fall can happen. And so anyway, yes, it's super important to take care. We have control and we can take care of these things ourselves. So simply, right?
Yes.
You know the right things to do.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Yes, we can absolutely take control of it. At the